What are some of the other anti-inflammatory foods that top your list?
Well, we've got to go for like berries, fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, tofu, tempeh. I think soybeans have a terrible reputation still, unfortunately, but they are really good for hormone regulation because not only do they contain all essential amino acids, but they also they contain a special kind of phytoestrogen, which is actually beneficial. So it's actually more of a modulator rather than something that is an active pusher of estrogen, if you like.
Right. So let's like really underscore that, because I think what happens is people hear soy, they think estrogen. You spoke earlier about dysregulated estrogen causing these problems. So without further inquiry, it would appear that eating something like soy with these estrogen compounds would be not a good thing, right? So I want you to be like really clear about soy, estrogens, phytoestrogens, the differences.
Okay. So soy contains phytoestrogens or estrogens, but it's actually what we call a SERM, a selective estrogen receptor
right.
modulator.
And if you're British, you say estrogen.
Yes. Sorry.
Keep going. Sorry to interrupt you.
My estrogen. So it's selective in its action. So if you, so what it does is, if you are wanting to reduce your risk of breast cancer, it's really great for that because it blocks the receptors that are responsible for, breast cancer. If you want to improve your bone health, it's actually really good for that because it's more likely to selectively bind to the receptors that are in the bone area of the body. So it has selective effects which are actually beneficial in terms of our hormone exposures. It stops us from being exposed to bioequivalent hormones and instead blocks those. So it's good for reducing risk of breast cancer, especially if you start to eat soy products young in life. So for young girls, teenagers, young women, there is some evidence to show that if you have soy products in childhood and adolescence, it's much more likely to reduce your risk of breast cancer later in life.
But if you're a dude or a mate and you get on the soy early, you become a soy boy and develop man boobs.
Well, you're probably more likely to develop man boobs if you drink actual cow's milk, if you think about it, because that's a bioequivalent estrogen. But in actual fact, there is data to show that soy can potentially reduce the risk of prostate cancer. So you don't need to worry too much about soy.
All right.
Or in fact, you don't need to worry at all about soy.
Is there a difference between soy or tofu versus like tempeh or a fermented soy? Like I've always understood that a fermented version is better.
Yeah, I think there are different qualities, I suppose. Interestingly, soy products have been shown to be beneficial for flushes, sort of period flushes, vasomotor symptoms in women. So yeah, but in sort of Japanese populations, they don't really have the same amount of flushing, and it's thought to be because they have a lot of fermented soy products, sort of miso and tempeh and edamame beans, and not that that's fermented, but it's a more natural form of soy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you go for minimally processed sort of tofu, tempeh, edamame beans, miso soup, that kind of thing, you're going to have perhaps even better benefits. But yeah.
What about natto? Have you had natto?
I've not had it, but I've heard it's disgusting.
I've heard that as well. It's atop the list, though, of like the most nutritious fermented soy product. And it's an acquired taste that they enjoy in Japan, but is not necessarily readily available in the West.
No. I mean, yeah, maybe I'll try it one day, but I haven't tried it yet.
It's sort of the soy version of durian, right? Like,
but actually, durian's delicious.
Yeah, but it's an acquired taste. I mean, durian's a hardcore thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that love it really love it.
Yeah,
but
it smells quite strong though, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
But I actually wanted to say before we get off the topic that interestingly, going back to the Gut Health MD and his passion for the gut microbiome, the effect of soy on flushes and things like that can be affected by our microbiome or estrobolome. So some people, unless we have the gut bugs to sort of process the genistein from the isoflavone in soy, we may not necessarily get the same flushing benefits, which is why it's great then to have an overall plant-rich diet, because what you're doing there is you're promoting the kind of gut bugs which would then hopefully be able to metabolize the components of soy that benefit us in terms of vasomotor flushing.
Right. So if you have some form of dysbiosis, that could be a causal factor in a dysregulated, a dysregulated hormonal state, and also a dysregulated period, right? Or some kind of period issue.
Yeah, potentially. So yeah, I'd say the bottom line is that plants are always good in terms of hormone regulation, and they can help to foster the microbiome that could potentially then also use other parts of plants to then benefit us.
How